In this tutorial we're going to look at modifying existing drawing views and moving them around and how they relate to each other, and some of the display options that you can modify when working with drawing views. So if you want to set your working directory as drawing views modifying, and then load in the modifying views drawings file. So I've set the working directory, so I'll just load in that file. Modifying views is the file that we need, and we're confronted with this sheet initially, so make sure you have the datums turned off. And what we're going to do is select this front view here, so it's easier to select it if you know the name from the drawing tree. And this view hasn't been locked in position. You can tell that by the fact that it has this center square visible and these squares on each corner, which means we can just drag the location of this view. And this view is the parent view to these other two views here. So you can see that as we drag it, they move relative to it because they were created as projections of this view. So currently we're unable to break the link between them, so that's the first thing to notice. So we're going to change some options about all three of these views now. So if you select the parent view and then hold down Control, and then select the two child views as well. So when you've got them all selected like that, if you just right click and go down to Properties, we're now editing the options for all three views together. So that's quite useful. So currently they're using the no hidden lines display option. If we wanted to show some of the detail that is either internal to this part or on the other side of this part, so you can't view it from the current camera angle, we could change this to wireframe, and then if we hit apply, you can see that we're seeing some of the detail. Or probably more useful would be hidden lines, where the hidden lines get a slightly grayer colour than the prominent lines that we can see from this side. So that's how you would edit multiple views at once and change their options. So we're going to have a look at some other options on this second sheet as well. If you want to change the overall scale of a sheet, you can just double click the scale option at the bottom of the sheet here. So we're going to do that now. I've double clicked it. I'm going to change it to 1.25. You can see that it affects all the views because they've all been set up to follow the default sheet scale. You can actually set the scale of each view individually, but by default they get set to follow the particular scale of the sheet. So what we're going to do now is just edit some options related to these two views here. So I've selected the first one, hold down Control, select the second one, and then we're going to enter into the View Properties window. And then these two have some tangent edges on them, so there's a round feature running along here. But let's say because they're tangent edges, you don't want them represented with a solid normal black line. You can change that. Tangent edge display style, currently set on solid. Maybe you want some phantom lines to represent that they're not hard edges, that they're just where a round feature transitions into a surface. So yeah, you can change that, and again we've got multiple views selected, so we're changing them together. We're not having to go into each one and change them individually. So we'll just move on. Sheet 3, we'll look at some other options on here. What we're going to illustrate now is that obviously you can see when I drag here that the view that I have selected that I'm dragging around is the parent to all three of these other views. So these views are all projected views of this original view here, which is why they're all moving relative to it when I drag that round. But we're just going to illustrate what happens when I say I'd like to delete this original view. So the system gives us a little warning there. It's given us these purple highlight boxes on the child views, and it's saying the highlighted views depend on the view that you've just selected for deletion. Are you sure that you want to continue, because you're going to lose these 3 projected views as well. So let's say we were happy with that, we'd hit OK and they'd all disappear. As it happens, we're not happy with that, so we're just going to click on the undo button up here, and it brings all the views back again. So now we're going to select this sort of 3D isometric view up here. Make sure you've got it selected. We're going to drop into the properties window, and then we're going to change the scale of this view. So as I've said before, by default views tend to follow the default scale set for that sheet, but let's say you want to give this view a custom scale. You can select custom and then type in whatever scale you need. So I've put 2 in there. I'm just going to hit apply. That looks good. The system's realized that that doesn't follow the scale that's outlined down here, so it's added a little note on there just to make the person reading the drawing aware that this is shown in a different scale to the rest of the sheet. And often when you're showing 3D views, you may want a slightly more realistic looking representation of the part. So we'll just change this to a shaded with edges sort of view as well. So you get this shading just indicating where the surfaces are, which can often be a little bit hard on line models to ascertain exactly what's solid surfaces and what isn't. So yeah, that's just a few options that allow you to modify and change views and change some of the options on them.